Welcome back to the channel, guys. It has been and happy Thanksgiving to everyone near and far. Thanksgiving holds plenty of traditions. We have great food, great family time, and we also have football. And we have no one on the bye week this week, so we have 16 total games this week. We got 3 for Thanksgiving, 1 Black Friday one, and the rest on Sunday and Monday. So before we get started, we got to talk about last week. I did not do good at all. I mean, that was just abysmal for me. 7-6 for the total here. So many upsets last week, which started off with that Cleveland game. No one really expected the Browns to win. Same goes for the Titans, the Cowboys, and who knows what we have in store for us this week. But with the 7-6 record, that brings my grand total to 105 wins and 74 losses. With that out of the way, let's get started with the 3 Thanksgiving games, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos such as these. Chicago Bears and Detroit Lions. To start this Thanksgiving week, we have an early slate between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. The Bears, you had a very close game against the Vikings last week, only losing by 3 points. And I hate to say this, but you know what makes 3 points? Yeah, field goal.
And it's blocked! Second straight.
It is even the second time.
Yeah, that's a really rare stat for you guys, having at least 2 consecutive blocked field goals in 2 weeks alone. Last team to do that was the 2012 Vikings. That's ironic. Not much else to say. And as for the Lions, with the exception of a 3-0 lead by the Indianapolis Colts, it was basically their game all the way through. A solid effort for Jared Goff and David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amari St. Brown, and the list goes on. There were some times where the Colts had a chance to cut down the lead, but due to some crucial penalties and key issues on third down with the defense, the Colts were unable to put the Lions' offense back on the sidelines. Solid win for Detroit. And this is an alarming stat. The last time the Detroit Lions won a game in Detroit on Thanksgiving was 2016. And that also includes the few years with Dan Campbell, but I'm going to give the Lions the nod to win this one. Chicago might make a game out of it, but I'm not 100% sure that they can take the win. Detroit wins this 28-20. New York Giants and Dallas Cowboys. Next up, our second matchup is deep in the heart of Texas, where the Dallas Cowboys host the New York Giants. The Giants, what happened? Tommy DeVito is not the answer. He is not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And surely Brian Daboll is probably out the door by the end of the season. You guys had no offense or defense against this Buccaneers team. Nothing went right during that game for you guys. And to make matters worse, your guys' quarterback that you released earlier this week, he's now on a winning team. He could see the playoffs, but you guys, you might have to wait till next year or the year after that or 5 more. Who knows? As for the Dallas Cowboys, my apologies. That was a really good game. I picked Washington to win that one, but I was very much shocked. Cooper Rush, impressive game. 2 touchdown passes and also 24 points scored in the 4th quarter alone. Putting these 2 teams together, I am going to pick the home team to win this one. That is the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think there's going to be an issue with them to take on the Giants. The Giants don't have much of an answer, and I think they're going to be tanking, considering that next year they're probably looking for another quarterback. Dallas takes this home 31-9. Miami Dolphins and Green Bay Packers. It's probably safe to say that even with Tua coming back, the Dolphins have a lot of ground to make up if they are considering to make it to the playoffs. And this was a well-fought win against their divisional rival being the New England Patriots. Tua just looked amazing, 4 touchdown passes, 317 passing yards. It's so shocking to see Tua play so good after missing 5 games this season. But let's not forget his supporting cast with Jalen Waddle with a touchdown and then David Achane with 2 touchdowns too. Miami's starting to look dangerous late in the season. For the Green Bay Packers, they had their way against the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, the 49ers were injured, no Brock Purdy, but they capitalized on every single mistake that the 49ers had, and their human cheat code Josh Jacobs. I've said this before many times on the channel, and I'll say it again. It is so tough to play the Packers at Lambeau. And with it being Thanksgiving, I think it's going to be tough. Miami has never been a team to play good in cold weather, so give me the Packers to win this one at home, 31-24. Las Vegas Raiders and Kansas City Chiefs. For this inaugural Black Friday presentation of the NFL, the Las Vegas Raiders are taking on their divisional rivals being the Kansas City Chiefs. For what was a very promising start to the season for the Raiders has now kind of fallen into a tailspin. Another divisional loss to the Broncos, losing by 10, and if the quarterback situation wasn't harsh enough, they have lost Gardner Minshew, and he's out for the season due to a broken collarbone. Always had a soft spot for Minshew, so this really hurts home. Get well soon, brother. We'll miss you. And for the Chiefs, you almost lost to the Panthers. Keyword, almost. For a team where many experts and critics say that you guys are going to three-peat, that performance against the Panthers was not really showing it. This is why a lot of people don't believe that your record really speaks on what you guys do performance-wise. And you guys had to have a miracle run by Patrick Mahomes to get yourself into field goal range in order to get the game-winning score. The rest of the season should be easy for you guys, but I will be holding my breath to see how many wins you guys have for the rest of the season. This should be a no-brainer. But honestly, with these Chiefs games, your guess is as good as mine. But with no true quarterback answer for the Raiders, I am going to see the Chiefs winning this one by a considerable margin. And since this is the inaugural Black Friday game, you might see some crazy trick play. Or not, we'll see. Kansas City wins this 34-10. Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals. Let's talk about that Pittsburgh game on Thursday night, shall we? If you were a Pittsburgh fan, that was quite a forgettable game. If you were a Cleveland Browns fan, that was a winter wonderland. I mean, that was a fun game to watch at home. The lake effect weather in Cleveland, it just does wonders. And right after that snow accumulated on the ground, chaos soon followed. We saw people flip over each other, fumble after fumble on both ends. Yes, the Steelers had some good scoring drives, but it was late in that fourth quarter where the Browns started to kind of crawl themselves back out of the hole that they had started off with, and resilience surely won the game. As for the Bengals, that's another story. They allowed 24 points at halftime against the Chargers, while only scoring 6, but they crawled back into the game, and this is the part that I love about Joe Burrow, is that he is explosive when he is in a desperate situation. But when they are leading by as much as like 20 points or 15 points, it just seems that he's very lackluster. It's only at times when he shows his true potential, but it has to be a desperate situation. But the worst part about it was that they could have sealed the game if Evan McPherson at least got one of his 2 missed field goals. But sure enough, he missed them both. That is not why they drafted you. History always tells us that a Pittsburgh and Cincinnati game is brutal, it's physical, it's harsh, and it is always talked about for probably a solid 5 to 6 days after the game's over. But I do have a feeling that Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, and the rest of the squad can find a way to win, since he takes this at home 24-21. Indianapolis Colts and New England Patriots. To say that I was shocked about the Colts' performance last week against the Lions, I would say I was pleasantly not surprised.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
For me, expecting the Colts to win every single week is already laughable. But if we are to lose, I wanted to do it this way. Let AR and the rest of his crew learn that the mistakes that they made that Sunday do not repeat the following. Indy is going through some growing pains right now. And the same can be said about Drake May and the Patriots. They've lost a close-ish game against the Dolphins, but Drake May is looking very promising right now. As I mentioned last week, I think he can be a sleeper pick for being Rookie of the Year this year, and it looks like the rest of that team is starting to blend well with him. But everybody in New England is well aware that Drake May is going to be a long-term project. I mean, he's got a lot of skills, he's got a lot of attributes, but it is going to be a long-term affair for him. Is he the guy for New England? Who knows? We'll just have to see.
If there was one play that enshrined itself as being the play for Colts and Patriots in the classic days, it'd be this.
Intercepted! Colts are going to the Super Bowl!
But due to favoritism, I'm going to pick the Colts to win this one. It might be a close contested game, unlike last year's in Germany, but I'm giving Indy the win 28-17. Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans are now on a tailspin of loss after loss after loss after loss, and I mean it is starting to get really ugly with them. Last week they played against the Tennessee Titans, and what was sure to be an easy matchup for them turned into a complete mess. They allowed over 32 points in that game against the Titans. That basically they're averaging only about 17 to 20 points a game, so that is just terrible on the defense. And as I mentioned last week and this week and probably weeks ahead of now, the Jaguars are just terrible. I only have one more joke for this previous matchup, so bear with me.
Hey, you little... I got you! You!
Stop! He's already dead.
And likely is Doug Peterson's coaching career. Seat is scorching. As I've said before, with the AFC South matchup, there's always a toss-up for everything. I mean, anything can happen any given Sunday, but I am going to pick the Texans to win this one. I just don't see Jacksonville putting up a big fight. I think they're going to be going for a higher draft pick next season and clearing out the coaching staff. So Houston wins it 27-14. Los Angeles Chargers and Atlanta Falcons. Last week on Monday night, we had the Har Bowl, where head coaches John and Jim Harbaugh go up against each other. The Chargers lost to the Ravens by 7 points that game, but it really wasn't about Justin Herbert, it wasn't about J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards. They were all pretty good. It was one particular person, and that was 3, 2, 1, Quentin Jackson. 5 targets, 3 drops, 0 receptions, 0 yards. What are you doing, buddy? I personally have some close friends who are Chargers fans. They want you off the team pronto. And for the Atlanta Falcons, it's kind of like the same situation with the Houston Texans. They started off amazing this season, and now they're kind of in a tailspin. They had the bye week last week, but prior to that, they did have a matchup against the Denver Broncos where they got humiliated. They only scored 6 points to their 38. Time is not on your side, and you guys got to get your act together, or else the Buccaneers may snag your spot for the division. I feel like this is going to be quite an even match. Justin Herbert's having a great season, and Kirk Cousins is having a pretty good season as well. Both of the main running backs for both teams are doing great too, so this could go down to just a one-score game, but I am going to pick the Chargers to win this one. But be aware, the Falcons' record at home is strong. The Chargers win 24-20. Tennessee Titans and Washington Commanders. Well, if there's one thing that the Titans could do that the Colts couldn't, it's beat the Texans on the road. No, I'm not sour. But no, Will Levis did a really good job against the Texans. He actually seemed to be very comfortable in the pressured moments. Main highlight of the day was that 99-yard touchdown pass that went all the way to the end zone. Demoralizing for a defense if you allow that. And for the Washington Commanders, what the heck happened against the Cowboys? I thought you guys had it in the bag. Yes, it was a close game. Yes, there were a lot of issues on offense and defense. Terry McLaurin had a great touchdown pass near the end of the game. I thought you guys were going to be good. Then your kicker missed that extra point, which led to an onside kick, which led to a recovery by Dallas, which, I mean, we can just kind of skip to the decision making. Personally, I know that it's just one little issue. I don't think Washington is going to have much of an issue against the Titans. I know I said that about Houston, but I think Washington's a little bit different, and this is going to be a redemption game for Jaden Daniels. Washington takes this at home 31-22. Arizona Cardinals and Minnesota Vikings. The Cardinals are walking into this matchup after a loss to the Seattle Seahawks, where they had basically nothing going right for them. Kyler Murray was sacked 5 times. He had a pick 6 that was returned for 69 yards for a touchdown. And an alarming stat here that the Cardinals have averaged more than 29 points per game in the last 3 matchups, but the Seahawks held them to just 298 total yards. You're not going to score many points with just that amount of yardage, especially now in this league. But they are just so sporadic at times. You just don't know if they're going to be great or terrible. As for the Vikings, they are coming off of a close win against the Chicago Bears, where they won by only 3 points at the end of the game. Sam Darnold had a pretty decent game again, 2 touchdown passes for 330 yards. Aaron Jones had 106 yards for 1 touchdown, but it was Jordan Addison with 150 plus yards and a touchdown. 8 receptions for 9 targets. Fantasy football managers that have him were very happy that day. But if it had to be between these 2 teams, I am going to pick the Minnesota Vikings to win this one. I think this will be another close matchup, just like how the Bears game was, but I don't see the Cardinals fulfilling all of the expectations against that defense. Minnesota wins it 27-20. Seattle Seahawks and New York Jets. Seattle Seahawks, as mentioned just previously, had a matchup against the Arizona Cardinals where they beat them 16-6. The defensive line, as well as that secondary, was the main reason why the Seahawks got the win. The pick 6 by Kobe Bryant and the 5 sacks on Kyler Murray, like I said, that is what sealed the fate for Arizona. Great performances by Kenneth Walker, Geno Smith, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Look out if Seattle makes a push for the playoffs. And what can I say about this? Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, as it looks like right now that the Jets are dead in the water and they're going to be looking for a new quarterback next season. They did have the necessary bye week last week, but prior to that, they did lose to my Indianapolis Colts by 1 single point. There were tons of self-inflicted wounds that the Jets just couldn't recover from them all, leading to the Indianapolis win. Go Blue. No, prior to filming this, I had the feeling that the Seahawks were going to win this one, but give me the Jets to win this one. For some reason, I don't know, I'm just being wild today, and I think that this is just going to be a weird matchup, one that's going to be talked about for a while. Is it on a gut scenario? Absolutely. So give me Jets to win this one at home, but not by much though, 24-21. to 21. Los Angeles Rams and New Orleans Saints. The Rams are coming into this matchup after last week's loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, where they lost 37 to 20. It really wasn't the Philadelphia Eagles that beat them. It was Saquon Barkley. I mean, he alone had 255 yards in rushing and 300 plus yards in total offense. And that's nothing against Matt Stafford. I mean, he had a pretty decent day for 243 yards and 2 touchdown passes, but it was just those crucial moments that just didn't work. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown pass, and the same thing goes for Kyren Williams with a rushing touchdown, but he did have a fumble. Rams want to forget this real quick. And for the Saints, it was the bye week for them, but the week prior to that, they did play against the Cleveland Browns, where they took them to the cleaners. Actually, hold on, let me rephrase that. Taysom Hill took them to the cleaners. And Taysom Hill had a game very similar to Saquon Barkley, where he had 3 rushing touchdowns, and he was targeted 8 times for 50 yards. And his grand total was 138 yards in rushing, I forgot to mention that. Again, it's very fun to watch the Saints, especially with Taysom Hill. I think that's just my main purpose why I want to keep on watching him, just because he's just a Swiss Army knife. He's just amazing to watch. Now here's the tricky part. Who's going to win it? If it was my opinion, I would probably pick the Rams to win this one. Statistically, I think they're just the better offense and defense. But don't count out the Saints for making this a very competitive matchup. I just think there's just a little bit more juice in the Rams. So LA is going to take this on the road for the win, 28 to 20. Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Carolina Panthers. There really isn't much discussion to bring up about that previous Buccaneers game. In a not so exciting matchup against the Giants, they beat them 30-7. And this would have been a 30-0 shutout if it wasn't for Devin Singletary scoring a touchdown during garbage time. But hats off to Baker Mayfield, where he had almost 300 yards in passing. He had no touchdown passes, but he ran one in for himself while also celebrating in a very Italian style. And in Baker fashion, I think he specifically said it like this: "Arrivederci." As for the Panthers, it was a valiant effort against the Kansas City Chiefs. You almost had them, only losing by 3 points. Your offense started looking really good. I mean, Bryce Young started to look like he's a little bit more comfortable into his own actual element. Leggett looked good, Moore looked good, Hubbard looked good, but it was just that unfortunate last-minute drive by Patrick Mahomes where he ran it all the way to field goal range to score the 3 points that were needed to win. But hats off to Bryce Young. Again, I think this has been a really good game for him. I mean, yes, despite the loss, but I think this is really kind of a good show of growing as him as a quarterback for the future. If it was between these two teams, I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this one. They are a little bit more desperate for a win, trying to catch up to Atlanta for the top spot in their division. But again, give credit where credit is due. Carolina Panthers were really surprisingly good last week. Now, will they have a repeat of that same performance? Who knows? But I'm going to go with the gut and say Tampa takes this on the road, 31-21. Philadelphia Eagles and Baltimore Ravens. As mentioned earlier, the Philadelphia Eagles took on the LA Rams last week on Sunday Night Football, where they won 37-20. Philly's offense has been impressive to watch, whether it is the ground attack or if it's the passing game. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback, but Saquon Barkley, let's just do one little quick appreciation from what happened last week.
Beginning at their own 30 with Saquon Barkley as the running back. He's loose. I was running.
Saquon should never be taken lightly, and this certainly proves it. For the Baltimore Ravens, their last matchup was against the LA Chargers, where they won 30-23. John Harbaugh had the last laugh against his brother Jim, but that offense again for Baltimore with Derrick Henry, you got Zay Flowers, you got Bateman, you have Justice Hill, you have so many weapons on that team. You guys should at least be putting 50 on the board every week. Between these two teams, I am going to pick Philadelphia to win this one. I think it will come down to the ground game, where basically you have 2 mobile quarterbacks, you got 2 superstar running backs, but you're also going to have to see how strong these defenses are against those superstars. But despite it being played in Baltimore, I think the Eagles have the upper hand on this one. Give me Philly to win this one, 28-24. San Francisco 49ers and Buffalo Bills. The San Francisco 49ers are coming into this matchup after a loss to the Green Bay Packers, where they were just basically destroyed in Lambeau. Filling in for the injured Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen just didn't have what it took to take on those cheeseheads. A crucial interception, multiple sacks, and just a lack of time management. And the same thing goes for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, back from the injury, but he has just not performed the way he used to last year. Madden curse? Maybe. As for the Bills, once again, let's just give yourselves a round of applause here that you guys did beat the Kansas City Chiefs, giving them their first loss of the season, and you enjoyed the bye week, celebrating for that matter. So congratulations. This is going to be a very exciting matchup for Sunday Night Football. Before the season started, this was my pick for being this year's Super Bowl. But with the exception of Detroit really kicking butt, I don't know if I might have to change my mind. But I'm going to pick the Bills to win this one at home against the 49ers. I think Brock Purdy and McCaffrey will find a way to make it interesting, but I just don't see them winning it. Buffalo wins it at home 28-24. Cleveland Browns and Denver Broncos. Let's make this a hypothetical. Say you fell asleep before the second quarter began, and then you woke up in the third quarter, and you saw the environment of the football field go from this to this. You might have thought you were watching a different game. Snow games in the NFL are just fun to watch, but I hate the cold, so you'll probably never see me go to one. But enough about this. Let me just do one quick little appreciation post for Jameis Winston.
And we back again out here playing some football on Thursday night. Yes! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Love you. Oh, what a fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey! Never played in the freaking snow before, but I know one thing. We're going to make some snow angels by dominating the line of scrimmage.
And sure enough, the Snow Angels were made. They capitalized on the mistakes by the Steelers, and they won at home. Jameis Winston may not be the best quarterback in the NFL. He's definitely not the most accurate, but he's got one of the best personalities. And I highly respect that. And for the Broncos, all smiles in Denver right now. Bo Nix has shown that he is a stud, a smart quarterback, and a mobile one. He has definitely shown that he is the future of the Broncos. And he certainly proved that after their matchup against the Raiders, where they beat them 29-19. And if you look at the stat chart here, you got Bo Nix with 273 yards in passing with 2 touchdowns. And then you also have Courtland Sutton, had 8 receptions for 97 yards, but he also had 2 touchdown passes. Things are going in the right direction for Denver. Between these two teams, I am going to go with the Broncos to win this one. Even though that Jameis Winston is a wild card, he can have a great day. I still think consistency is the key to this win, and I just think the Denver Broncos show more consistency than the Cleveland Browns. So give me Denver to win this at home against the Browns, 27-17.
Broncos country, let's ride.
And with that being said, thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. And also to everyone who is watching, have a happy Thanksgiving and the rest of the holidays. See you next week. Peace.